The day he stopped asking people to choose him. There was a man who spent most of his life waiting for people to call, waiting for someone to notice his effort, waiting for appreciation, waiting for the relationship to improve, waiting for the promotion, waiting for permission to finally become himself. If you met him, you'd probably think he was patient, responsible, reliable. But if you looked closely, you'd notice something else. His entire life was built around one quiet hope. Maybe this time, they'll choose me. And that hope was quietly stealing decades from his life. The invisible audition. Nobody told him he had to earn love. Nobody sat him down and said, "Become indispensable." Life taught him that lesson slowly. He became agreeable, dependable, the one who never complained, the one who always stayed late, the one who apologized first, the one who checked in, the one who carried everyone else's emotional weight, not because he was weak, because somewhere inside him lived a frightened belief: if I become enough, people won't leave. So every relationship became an audition. Every conversation became a performance. Every achievement became another attempt to finally feel chosen. The exhaustion of performing. Years passed. He became successful. People admired him, trusted him, needed him. Yet something felt strangely empty. He couldn't understand why. After all, wasn't this what he had worked for? Then, one evening, he realized something that changed everything. The people around him loved what he did for them, but almost nobody knew who he actually was, because he'd spent years introducing them to the version of himself that felt safest, not the version that felt most real. And there's a unique loneliness that comes from being appreciated, but never truly known. The question that changed everything. One afternoon, someone asked him a question, not about work, not about relationships, not about success, just one simple question. If no one could reject you, how would you live? He didn't answer, not because the question was difficult, because for the first time, he realized he'd never built a life around what he wanted, only around what he hoped would make him acceptable. That realization hurt, because it meant many of his biggest decisions had been driven by fear, not freedom. Stopping the audition. The changes were almost invisible. He stopped explaining himself so much. He stopped apologizing for having needs. He stopped chasing conversations that were already over. He stopped trying to convince people to stay. He began saying no. He rested without guilt. He allowed silence to remain silent. He stopped believing that disagreement meant rejection. At first, people noticed. Some didn't like the new version of him. They called him distant, different, less available. They were right. He was different, not colder, clearer. The strange thing about self-respect, the most surprising part, wasn't that people left. Some did. The surprise was that the people who truly loved him stayed. And for the first time in his life, relationships no longer felt like something he had to earn. They became something he could experience honestly. Because self-respect changes every relationship you have, not by changing everyone else, but by changing what you're willing to accept. Years later, someone asked him, "When did your life finally change?" He smiled. "It wasn't the day someone finally chose me. It was the day I stopped asking them to. Because there comes a moment in every life when you realize you've been standing outside a locked door, begging to be invited in, only to discover you are carrying the key to your own house the entire time. And maybe that's what growing up really is. Not becoming someone everyone chooses, but becoming someone you refuse to abandon."